It was a quiet Tuesday evening at the gas station where I work. The sun had just set and the sky was turning dark. I was behind the counter, counting change and waiting for the next customer. The neon lights buzzed above me and the air smelled of gasoline and convenience store snacks. It was just another ordinary night, or so I thought. The door creaked open and a man walked in. He looked rough, messy hair, dirty clothes, and eyes that darted around the store like a trapped animal. I could tell he was under the influence of something. His movements were jerky, and he seemed agitated. I felt a knot of anxiety tighten in my stomach, but I tried to stay calm and professional. "Evening," I said, forcing a smile. "Can I help you with something?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he wandered down one of the aisles, picking up items and putting them back down. He was acting strange, and I kept a close eye on him. After a few minutes, he made his way to the counter, holding a can of soda. I rang up his purchase. "That'll be $1.50, I said. He fumbled in his pocket and pulled out some crumpled bills. As he handed me the money, I noticed something shiny in his other hand. It was a small pocket knife. My heart skipped a beat. I tried not to show my fear, but it was hard. His eyes met mine, and I could see a storm of emotions swirling in them. He placed the knife on the counter, and for a moment, we just stood there in silence. My mind raced with possibilities. What was he planning to do? Was he going to rob the store? Hurt me? I took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. Then he spoke. His voice was shaky and filled with a strange mix of desperation and regret. "I was going to do something terrible," he said. But I changed my mind. I didn't know what to say. I glanced at the knife, then back at him. "Are you okay?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He shook his head. "No, I'm not." He pushed the knife toward me. "Take it. I don't want it anymore." I hesitated, but then slowly reached out and took the knife. It felt cold and heavy in my hand. My mind was still reeling from his words. What had he planned to do? Why did he change his mind? He took a step back, running his hands through his hair. "You need to stay vigilant," he said, his voice breaking. "There are bad people out there, really bad people. I was almost one of them tonight." I didn't know how to respond. I felt a mix of relief and fear. Relief that he wasn't going to hurt me, but fear because I didn't understand what had just happened. "Do you need help?" I asked. "I can call someone for you." He shook his head again, more violently this time. No, I just need to go. I need to get out of here." He turned and headed for the door, but before he left, he looked back at me one last time. "Remember what I said. Stay vigilant." And then he was gone, disappearing into the night. The door swung shut behind him, and I was left standing there, holding the knife and trying to process what had just happened. My hands were trembling, and my heart was racing. I locked the door and called my boss. I told him everything that had happened. He said he would come by right away and that I should stay inside until he got there. As I waited, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The man's words echoed in my mind, "Stay vigilant." When my boss arrived, he took the knife from me and called the police. They came and took my statement, promising to keep an eye out for the man. But even after they left, I couldn't calm down. I kept replaying the encounter in my head, wondering what he had meant by something terrible and why he had changed his mind. The rest of my shift passed in a blur. I kept looking over my shoulder, expecting the man to come back or someone else to walk in with bad intentions. The gas station, usually a place of routine and familiarity, now felt ominous and threatening. When my shift finally ended, I drove home in silence. The streets were dark and empty, and every shadow seemed to hide a threat. I kept thinking about the man's parting words. I didn't know if I would ever see him again, but his warning had left a lasting impact. That night, I locked all my doors and windows and double-checked them before going to bed. I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling and listening for any unusual sounds. The man's haunted eyes and desperate voice kept replaying in my mind. It was a night I would never forget, a night that changed the way I saw the world. Before we get into the next story, if you come for the first time, please make sure to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon for upcoming scary stories. We need your support. Please share these stories with your friends and family. Thanks. Working the night shift at a gas station isn't what most people would call exciting. Most nights are quiet, with only the hum of the fluorescent lights and the occasional car pulling in for fuel. But one night, something happened that I'll never forget. It was a Tuesday night around 2 a.m. I was sitting behind the counter, flipping through an old magazine to pass the time. The station was empty as usual. Suddenly I saw headlights coming down the road. A car was approaching, and it was moving fast. The car screeched to a halt at the pump, and a man stumbled out. He looked terrified, his eyes wide and his face pale. He rushed into the store, almost tripping over his own feet. "Please, you have to help me," he gasped, leaning against the counter for support. I stood up, startled. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Someone's following me," he said, looking over his shoulder as if he expected to see someone right behind him. "I ran out of gas and I don't have any money. Please, you have to help me." His fear was contagious. I glanced outside, half expecting to see another car pulling in, but there was nothing, just the empty road and the quiet night. Okay, I said, trying to stay calm. "I'll give you some gas. Don't worry about the money." He looked at me with such gratitude that it made my heart ache. "Thank you," he whispered. I grabbed the keys to the pump and went outside with him. He kept looking around, his eyes darting nervously. I filled up his tank as quickly as I could, and he got back into his car. "Thank you," he said again before speeding off into the night. For the rest of my shift, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Who was following him? Why was he so scared? The questions kept swirling in my mind, but I didn't have any answers. A few days later, I was back on the night shift. It was around the same time, and I was once again trying to stay awake by reading a magazine. I heard a car pulling into the station. When I looked up, I saw the same man getting out of his car. This time, he looked different. He was calm and composed, and there was a small smile on his face. He walked into the store and came straight to the counter. "I wanted to thank you," he said, reaching into his pocket. "You helped me when I was in trouble, and I haven't forgotten that." He placed a few bills on the counter. "Here's the money for the gas," he said, "and I want you to have this." He pulled out a small box and handed it to me. I opened the box and found a gold watch inside. It was beautiful, gleaming under the store's harsh lights. "I can't accept this," I protested. "It's too much," but he shook his head. "You saved me that night. It's the least I can do." I didn't know what to say. "Thank you," I finally managed. He smiled again and nodded. "Take care," he said before leaving the store. I watched him drive away, the watch still in my hand. It felt heavy, almost unreal. I put it on and it fit perfectly. For the next few nights, I couldn't stop thinking about the man. Who was he? Why was he so scared that night? And why did he give me such an expensive gift? A week later, something strange happened. I was working the night shift again when a man walked into the store. He was dressed in a dark suit and his eyes were cold and hard. He walked straight to the counter and looked at me. "Have you seen this man?" he asked, holding up a photo. It was the same man who had given me the watch. My heart skipped a beat. "Why are you looking for him?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "He's in a lot of trouble," the man said, "and we need to find him." I shook my head. "I haven't seen him," I lied. The man stared at me for a long moment before nodding. "If you see him, call this number." He handed me a card and walked out of the store. I looked down at the card, my mind racing. What kind of trouble was he in? And why had he come to me for help? That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the man and the watch. I knew I should call the number, but something stopped me. I had a feeling that whatever trouble he was in, it wasn't something I wanted to get involved in. The next night, I was back at the gas station. It was quiet and I was alone. I kept glancing at the door, half expecting the man in the suit to come back. But the night passed uneventfully. A few days later, I found a note in the mailbox at the gas station. It was from the man who had given me the watch. He thanked me again for my help and told me that he was safe. He said he couldn't explain everything, but assured me that I had done the right thing by helping him. I never saw him again after that, but I kept the watch, and every time I looked at it, I remembered that night. I remembered the fear in his eyes and the gratitude in his voice, and I wondered if I would ever know the full story of what had happened. Working the night shift at a gas station might seem boring, but that night changed everything for me. It made me realize that you never know what someone is going through, or how a simple act of kindness can make a huge difference. And it reminded me that sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that don't have a clear ending. I work at a gas station on the edge of town. The gas station sits close to a dense forest. The trees are tall, branches reaching out like long, bony fingers. During the day, the forest looks beautiful. At night, it's a different story. The forest is alive, watching you, waiting for something. One night, I was on the graveyard shift alone as usual. The clock showed 2:30 a.m. It was a quiet night where you could hear every little noise. The hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the clock, and the occasional rustling of leaves outside. I was sitting behind the counter, trying to stay awake by scrolling through my phone. The only light inside was from the overhead bulbs, casting a pale glow around the room. Outside, the lights from the gas pumps were the only things cutting through the darkness. I glanced up from my phone and looked out the window. The forest loomed in the distance, a dark mass against the night sky. I couldn't see much, just the outlines of the trees. I shook my head and tried to focus on something else. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw something move. I looked back at the forest, straining my eyes. There, just beyond the edge of the light, was a figure. It was too far to see clearly, but it looked like someone standing just inside the tree line. I squinted, trying to make out more details. The figure raised its hand and waved. It was a slow, deliberate motion like it was calling me over. My heart started to race. Who would be out there at this time of night? Maybe it was someone lost or in trouble. I grabbed the flashlight from under the counter and stepped outside, the cold night air hitting me like a splash of water. "Hello," I called out, my voice shaky. "Do you need help?" There was no answer. The figure was still there, still waving. I took a few steps toward the forest, my flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The figure moved back just a bit, staying out of the light. I felt a chill run down my spine. Something wasn't right. "Hey, if you need help, come closer," I said, trying to sound brave. The figure stopped waving and just stood there, motionless. I walked closer, my shoes crunching on the gravel. I was almost at the edge of the light when the figure disappeared into the trees. I stopped, my heart pounding in my chest. I shined the flashlight into the forest, but I couldn't see anything. Just the dark, silent woods. I hesitated, then stepped into the forest. The trees closed in around me, and the light from the gas station seemed far away. I kept the flashlight steady, sweeping it back and forth. The forest was eerily quiet, not even the sound of crickets. My breath was loud in my ears. "Hello!" I called out again, but my voice seemed swallowed up by the trees. I walked a bit further, my heart pounding louder with each step. The flashlight beam caught something on the ground. I knelt and saw footprints in the dirt, leading deeper into the forest. They looked fresh, like someone had just passed through. I followed them, feeling more uneasy with every step. After a few minutes, I stopped. The footprints had led to a small clearing. I shined the flashlight around, but there was no sign of the figure. Just empty woods. I was about to turn back when I heard a whisper. It was soft, almost too soft to hear, but it made my blood run cold. I spun around, the flashlight beam darting through the trees. There was no one there, just shadows and darkness. I felt a surge of panic. I needed to get out of there. I turned and started walking back, faster this time. As I reached the edge of the forest, I glanced back. The flashlight beam caught something white among the trees. I focused the light and saw a face staring back at me. It was pale, almost ghostly, with hollow eyes. I froze, my heart stopping for a second. The face disappeared into the shadows. I ran back to the gas station, my breath coming in short gasps. I slammed the door shut behind me and locked it. My hands were shaking as I put the flashlight down. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. What had I seen? Was it real or just my imagination? I sat behind the counter, staring out the window. The forest looked as dark and silent as ever. I tried to tell myself it was just a trick of the light, or maybe some prank. But deep down, I knew it was something else. Something I couldn't explain. For the rest of the night, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every rustle of leaves and every creak of the building made me jump. I kept glancing out the window, half expecting to see that face again.